Why did we want to start our own beer?
It's easy to feel lost out there in the rat race, weighed down by the monotony of life.
Kobe! Magic!
Sometimes it's hard to know how you're gonna make it through the week. But we'll let you in on a little secret. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. A glimmer of hope we call Friday beers. But Friday beers isn't just beers on a Friday. Friday beers is a feeling, connection, redemption, moments that just hit different. We all deserve our God-given rights, life, liberty, and the right to suck down some ice-cold ones. And as long as there are Fridays, there will be Friday beers.
All right, so I'm looking like this when I'm talking to you.
Yeah, look at the fuck. Look at.
Are my brows look good?
They look great.
Are you gonna cut them up too? Like,
Yeah.
Or should I keep them brief?
Why did you want to start a beer with Friday beers?
I mean, I guess it feels kind of obvious.
We started this company to spread the feeling that me and my brothers who started this whole thing out all love more than anything, which is the time we get to hang out with our friends. Summer of 2021, when we started going to events that were Friday Beers events, and we started seeing people come together and celebrating what Friday Beers is all about, it was incredible to see the passion people had. And that's when we started kind of thumbing around in our brains, should we put a beer out that could really embody what that message is? We actually got approached by a big beer company to make what is today called Friday Beers. And we went through that process with them for maybe 9 months. Went to their headquarters, went to their beer making facility, introduced who we were to all the marketing people, the CEO, all the people who were involved in getting this product out and working very closely. We designed the can, we designed the messaging, grinding with these guys on trying to make this beer perfect.
Over time, I think just as our company started to grow, and I think they had certain criteria of like the type of partners that they wanted to work with and how they were gonna control the types of content and things that they put out, that I think it just became like a misalignment. There's too big and a lot of red tape at this stage, and we're a fast-growing startup comedy brand that like takes certain risks and holds certain point of view on like the types of stuff we want to make, and like I just don't think either side was gonna like be able to compromise the gap that we were trying to clear with each other. We then took like a little hiatus and started to just have some conversations on who could be other like great partners in bringing this thing to life. We, interviewed with and met with a handful of different brewery operators and ended up starting the process again in earnest through an introduction through now one of the partners in the project, this guy Will McDonough.
My name's Will McDonough. I guess you could say I'm an entrepreneur. I've been creating businesses for the last 20 some odd years of my life. Started my first company when I was 16 years old, and my last company about 16 days ago.
He brought together a guy named Fred Matt, who runs Saranac Brewery in Utica, New York, and a guy named Jay Harmon, who runs Cisco Brewery, to form this team. And he said, you gotta try this beer that Fred makes. That's Friday Beers.
We tried their product and got to know them and quickly realized like they were the ones we wanted to run at this with.
My name's Fred Matt, and I am president of the FX Matt Brewing Company, which is a fourth generation family brewery.
They've been making beer forever. They actually made the first beer after Prohibition. They're the #1 beer license in the country.
The process of making the beer, as facilitated by Fred Matt, was so quick. We did a taste test. Fred sent out a bunch of different beers of his brands and other brands that we were supposed to try.
It sent us 2 different versions of beer that they have in their like quiver that's really popular. One was Utica Club, the other was Honey Pilsner. And I think we tried 12 different beers in total. So like their 2 beers plus 10 others.
And we sent a range of beers from heavy to light to lagers to this and that, really to kind of get out of the boys' heads what resonated with them. Well, then when we jumped on to do the taste test, they had gone out to the store on their own and gotten another 6 beers, which I actually appreciated because they didn't want us to be gamifying it or leading the witness to what we wanted them to do. They went and got every beer they could that fit the category. Price, taste, you name it.
We all went through and we had all ranked Fred's beer in at least the top 2.
You know, our beers generally end up kind of first or second in blind tastings, and I don't know why that is, but it's always been the case. Maybe we're better at making beer than we are marketing it. I shouldn't be saying that, but you know, when you see that result, and it's always blind, it kind of makes you wonder, shit, what am I doing wrong?
I had never had this beer, but the best tasting one that outclassed every single other light beer, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, like this was the best tasting light beer I've ever had, was called Utica Club.
I think Utica Club is the North Star here.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like going through those. It just like tasted very, it reminded me of what Friday Beers is.
Super refreshing. Actually had this amazing, you know, flavor and what you want in a beer. And if we were able to work off of that base and tweak it to a place where it was, you know, more in line with like the light beer category from like just like calorie standpoint and like drinkability, like, you know, crushability standpoint, that is what we ended up working towards.
How should we like figure out like what's our take on the Utica Club like base model? You know,
What do you, so I guess my question would be, what on the Utica Club do you want to tweak? I mean, what flavors do you want to lighten it a little bit and add a little more sweetness? What would you like that separation to be? Because we can use that base liquid stream. We can really make it what we want to deliver.
They then took it upon themselves to fly to Utica, New York, which could not be further away from Los Angeles, California. They really went and looked at what went into the beer, what they wanted the calories to be, what they wanted the alcohol by volume to be. And you know, this was not just let's pick something off the shelf. This was we want our own true proprietary beer that is and lives and breathes Friday beers and what that means to us and to our community.
So we reduced the alcohol down by 0.8%. So not a lot, but brought that down. And we tweaked a little bit of sweetness in there, which I think was smart too, just because, you know, your generation tends to drink a little bit more sweeter, so it's less bitter.
The Matt Brewing Company nailed the flavor profile. I mean, being a flavorful light beer is tricky. Like the hardest beer in the world to make is light beer.
This beer made you feel like it was like special. And we looked at each other and we knew if we can make a beer that people love the message of, first and foremost, it's all about the message and feeling, and they buy into that. And then they drink this beer and it tastes awesome, better than what they're drinking. That's the double combination. That is what you need.
On a macro level, as far as the design goes, we really wanted something that was classic and timeless, but also then had some modern, you know, tweaks and didn't feel like stale or old either, right?
We hired a really talented designer named Sam Ristich here in LA, and he did a pass on this beer.
What we did here is we mocked 4 different concepts for you. We took kind of like this old premium Milwaukee's Best can, but we wanted to make it feel a little bit more modern. So that's where the color scheme, the white kind of comes in. It's contrasted with the blue.
We have I think like a really great like baseline of what this can look like, but we were sort of playing within like some parameters that like we didn't necessarily want to play within. So like we want to throw those out the window and then see what you could come up with if, you know, there was no rules. And that's where we started to get the fun stuff on the can, like the commence suck down, like little ring in the back of the can, right?
I love that commence suck down.
Yeah, I think we need that for sure. Instead of the handshake.
On the top of it, it says they just hit different. We call it Tasty Light Lager. Tasty is a word that if you follow Friday Beers, you know is sort of like one of our own.
I'm wondering if instead of Tasty Lager, it's like Tasty Light Lager. Yes. To really hammer home that it's, you know, airy and refreshing.
It is a light beer.
Yeah.
It's a fucking
lager,
amazingly tastingly light beer. It's 4.2% ABV. It's like
lager makes it sound like it's a Bud heavy. A light lager.
It's got.
We're playing in a completely different arena there.
We also have a really great sort of messaging written on the side of the case. And I think that's gonna be a real nice combo when we get in, we start putting the beer out, and we start putting, I should say before the beer out, the message out, which is Friday beers just hit different. This is why, let's get ready to suck them down together. And I feel really good about the folks in Boston and putting this beer in their hands because of that.